Mr. Face,
Sound like Linkin Park.
aren't you worried you'll alienate the environmentalist vote by participating in today's hunt?
Hey, I cured global warming.
Listen.
All right, so if I want to bag a few birds, shut up.
All right, I think that's enough.
Douchington!
What?
Nice bus, little rascals!
Well, nice plane you had.
Now see?
Past tense.
What's he mean by that?
Buddy?
Think he might have been involved.
Oh, can you hear me? I thought I bit off that ear.
I got a prosthetic one, dick!
Which, pretty sweet we make these.
All right.
Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for what you... For what you can do. I'm joined by my twink co-host, Pixel Jake, who's agreed to be silent for technical reasons. Let's say hello to the gang. It's the State of the Union, folks. That means we are going to watch what I will generously call the second best choice. Try to tell us why history will not weep when looking upon this era. The fact that Joe Biden stands head and shoulders above his competition for the presidency is merely because the alternative, literally, has stated plans, become a dictator on day one. Woofa doofa. Now, hey, if there's anything to look forward to, no matter how this goes, both of these individuals are in obscenely bad health. So we can only hope that the devil has plans for them in the near future. Isn't it interesting that we don't yet know who Trump's VP pick is? Oh well, this ain't about Trump. This is about Biden. I am gonna be very curious to see if he acknowledges, for example, the fact that he's given a weapons shipment to Israel just about every other day for the last 6 months. Just between us chickens, though, man's complicit in 30,000 deaths. 30,000 deaths. Now, for you younger cats out there, let me put that into context for you. Not to lessen it. This is just to tell you how bad things have been and what we need to raise ourselves out of. He's putting up George Bush numbers. George Bush numbers. In a fraction of the time. I would say half the time, but since this started, October 7th, I mean, my God. He's very efficiently committing the sorts of acts that, in my opinion, deserve imprisonment. Still advocating that you go out and vote for him in November. That's my view of politics. I don't ask you to agree with it, but that's the point of this channel, is I make a pitch to you about what you can do. I recommend you vote for this motherfucker. And also, not unlike Stannis, then you take those knuckle bones. Put him in prison when he's done. Like, well, yeah, the bad doesn't wash out the good or the other way around. For Trump's death toll, you have to estimate how many people died unnecessarily because of COVID-19. This, we could have the whole nation vaccinated right now. I am proof that even if you are vaccinated, you still can get a version of COVID. But we could have everybody less infectious. And a lot of folks have died from COVID. I've estimated Trump's numbers at around 100,000 dead. Your grandma and your grandpa, all the kids with immunity affecting diseases. Trump killed those. I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you we've got rosy choices ahead of us, but we do have a path to a better nation, and I hope to hear glimmers of it in the State of the Union tonight. I hope to hear both what Biden intends to do intentionally that will please us, the progressive wing of America, and also gaps in his defenses that we can exploit to make him do things he does not want to do, like treat Palestinians like they're human beings. We'll get to that in a few short minutes. Let's say hi to the wicked community first. The anti-corporatist, good to see you, my friend. All of y'all are proof I'm keeping my N95 on. That's a smart idea. I stopped wearing it out. I did. I'm going to change that. Obviously, I haven't left. I've put myself in a 2-week quarantine. But when I return to the world for shopping and such, I'm popping that mask back on. John Bailey, hello everyone from San Francisco, California, waiting for the State of the Union address. Well, it's good to see you, John Bailey. And some strange individual here. What sort of name is this? Pinkerbell. Well, it's good to see you, Pinkerbell. The Baker's Dozen's cats. You okay, Jake? You have a lung left? Yeah, I got about a quarter of a lung. Still going strong, baby. Valerie Wolf, thanks for covering this. Joining from Colorado. It is an absolute pleasure. Aaron W. Aaron W. A strong start. Yeah. Oh, my word. Aaron W. saying, hola, bonjour, what up? Good to see you, my friend. I have people in my household, says Shade Dragon, who are immunocompromised, and I'm keeping the mask on probably permanently because I love my family. That is because you are a good person. Thank you. The anti-corporatist, of course, my co-driver, is busily telling me that N95 masks don't work. He knows because he was a CNA in a nursing facility. Tell your co-driver your old pal Jake respectfully disagrees, as do the makers of the N95 mask and, medical professionals. Very toked boomer, says Rex Trek. Evening all, got my munchies. Oh, fantastic. Shade Dragon, and I don't trust people to wash their hands. Me either. I don't have a profound thing to add. I just don't trust it. Not even that I think people are like nefariously trying to get away with not washing hands. I think particularly in the restaurant industry, you have massively overworked staff rushing around to meet impossible goals for capitalist pigs. And I think the first thing that goes out the window is any consideration at all for the health of the scumbag customers from their point of view, of which I am one, and I can't blame them. Boy, let's have a look at C-SPAN. Here it is, the Thunderdome. Oh, yes. Now, while I am no fan of Joe Biden, please understand. Thank you, Pixel. Thank you, Pixel Jake. Hold on. Pixel Jake, just hold the antenna still. While I'm no fan of Joe Biden, I'm still... Hey, my man Bernie. All right. Still feel the burn. That could just be the COVID, but I also feel a strong need for a socialist president. Anyway, I'm no fan of Joe Biden, but I still... It's the Godzilla theory. I still want him to take out the worst monsters. Last time, he had a State of the Union. Hey, there's that honky devil. Last time we had a State of the Union, he did a masterful job of turning specifically MAGA knuckleheads' behavior against them. Oh, we have another proud neoliberal there, Klobuchar. He did a fantastic job of that. I'm hoping we get more. I'm hoping they're dumb enough to give him another opportunity to commit publicly to a policy choice that they don't want to support. I don't think they will. I do believe they're dumb, but I also believe they're cowardly, and now they know they're not. At least they've learned they're not bright enough to get away with it in this forum. Since the last State of the Union, we got a new dingbat up there. That's Mike Johnson. Famously does not have a savings account. Very odd for a person who makes that amount of money per year. He's standing up there next to Kamala Harris as though he wouldn't be one of the people in hoods trying to kill her in the 50s. Oh, I'm just kidding, of course. He'd be doing that now. I don't have a joke for that. Yeah, I find it, Elizabeth Warren. Who else thinks she's going to take another whack at running for president? I honestly hope not, because I don't think she has the political savvy to not embarrass whatever movement she's a part of. Understand one thing. The next progressive president, the presidential candidate that I am looking for, Elizabeth Slotkin is not it. Elizabeth Slotkin is from my former neck of the woods, the Lansing area of Michigan. She's a former CIA scary human being, but a Democrat and a ruthlessly efficient one. She has her uses, but not somebody. Jamie Raskin, that's what I'm talking about. Jamie Raskin next to AOC. Either of them I would take as a candidate for president, but Raskin, I feel, despite never quite getting his hair correct, he's got the chops. He's got the chops. For the next progressive candidate, what I want is not somebody with perfect politics. I want somebody who's going to be very much, in fact, like Biden, a cipher. Somebody who does what the American people want.
10 minutes away from the State of the Union, and as you can see, the president just left the White House, seemingly a little late.
So, I want somebody who's going to be a cipher, but a cipher for progressives. I want a candidate who is charismatic and who understands that that Republicans and centrists do not know what they want. Republicans and centrists truly don't have an understanding of how any of this works. You might argue that centrists have some, but at the end of the day, if you sit down, you open the books on what policies suggest, like what policies will accomplish. If you're voting for centrists, you're voting for lukewarm fascism. You're voting for the sort of people like those two fucking idiots who spent their whole careers compromising with the worst scum ever scraped off a Confederate's, I don't know. I was going to say boots. Really, Confederates are the scum. They're compromising with Johnny Reb. No, I want somebody who listens to progressives and bases their policies off what progressives say they want, with the understanding that progressives want what is best for everyone. Progressives are genuinely ethical voters. In my opinion, they are the only ethical moral voters in America. Let me try that again. They're the only ethical, moral, and educated voters in America. I believe you have plenty of ethical and moral voters who vote for lib Democrats. I think you have plenty. They're not educated. They get their understanding of all this from CNN, from MSNBC at best. MSNBC, who couldn't stomach Mehdi Hasan. Mehdi Hasan. I defy you to find me a more professional journalist than that. Why did they fire him? Because he dared to call what is currently happening in Palestine right now a genocide. Well, it is. It's just a statement of fact. The rest of the world sure thinks it is. But no, in U.S. television, if you don't pretend that scum like that are decent human beings instead of filth, if you don't pretend like the American view of things is the only acceptable view, in other words, if you're not essentially like Russian state TV, then you get fired. So in the next progressive candidate, what I want to see is somebody extraordinarily charismatic who will fill the shoes. I think that person is going to have to come from either the state legislature or the House or Senate. They're going to have to come from Congress, or they're going to have to come from the state's legislature. What they're not going to come from is nowhere. Because I'm sick to death of wasting my time on candidates that, well, I don't really have any experience in politics. But make me the president. Give me the top position, the most scrutinized, if not, in my opinion, the most important, the most scrutinized position. It's certainly, I'll say this, it's the most important single thing you can be elected to, like single seat. I think collectively the House and Senate are much more important, but that's many, many votes. Let's hear these two pretending like they don't hate each other.
Barrasso, the senator from West Virginia, Mrs. Capito, and the senator from Iowa, Ms. Ernst.
The members of the escort committee will exit the chamber through the lobby doors.
Did I get that flip on camera? It's tradition. I don't give a shit about the pomp and circumstance. I would be fine with the president just popping in on a segue. Oh, hey, look, a well-known child sex trafficker, Matt Gaetz, and a well-known sex pest sitting next to him, Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert pulled out a penis in public. She pulled out a penis in public. You may not be aware of that. She did the same thing that ended Pee Wee Herman's career. The difference being Pee Wee Herman did it in an adult theater, where my understanding, at least according to the gentleman I've been servicing, is there's a reasonable expectation of a penis coming out. Lauren Boebert pulled out her date's penis during this is an elected congressperson. She pulled out her date's penis during a showing of Beetlejuice. She was also vaping in the theater, which is classless and disrespectful to other people's health. This is as a well-known unhealthy person. I'm saying that there's I still, if I'm on a train, when the train stops at a station, I go outside of the train to vape in the freezing cold with the rest of the cigarette smokers, because I understand that it's the same thing. You can't choose for other people to have them put vape smoke in their lungs, just like you can't choose for other people for them to see your date's penis, unless, of course, you are elected to Congress, in which case, even though the police have video evidence and presumably a theater full of eyewitness testimony, even though they have all of that, you are not charged as the sex pest that you are. Related note, Lauren Boebert's son was recently arrested for other crap. But you know what? That's not even... He just has a terrible mother, so he never had a chance. Marjorie Taylor Greene was there, just real quick. She's famous for believing that Jewish people have special lasers located in space that start forest fires. She's also famous for having harassed children who survived school shootings. Republicans and anyone who votes for them are filth that are not to be respected. Here's some more filth that's not to be respected, but the people that vote for him, I argue, are doing what they must. Oh, standing ovation for the Supreme Court. Yay for the Supreme Court. These motherfuckers. You think that's worthy of a standing O? Do you? You think the fact that they'll sell out democracy, that's worthy of a standing ovation? 2028. Let's start talking about that. I want somebody. Look through your progressives now. Look through your local progressives now. Bring to my attention anybody who you think will pack that court. Because those motherfuckers. I should turn on my editing filter. Pixel Jake, turn it on. Those motherfuckers right there. They cannot be in control of interpreting the laws in our country as constitutional or not. They are corrupt as corrupt gets. Clarence Thomas should be too ashamed to leave the House. Ginny Thomas is a co-conspirator in a coup. She ought to be in prison right now. In fact, I argue Clarence Thomas ought to be in prison right now. I want to see some heads get knocked. By the way, it's come to my attention recently. Ketanji Brown Jackson, amongst the only decent people on the Supreme Court. Amongst the only. It's her and... Jesus. I'm genuinely racking my brain. I guess Sotomayor? I guess. It's not good. By the way, that's the fault of the Federalist Society. If you're not familiar with the Federalist Society, it's essentially a group founded by conservatives, which exists to subvert confirmation hearings. So that when a person gets up in front of a confirmation hearing and says, I believe that Roe is settled law, if they're part of the Federalist Society, you know they're lying. And they'll just do whatever conservatives want. That's literally the job of that group. Republicans have no sense of decency. Hey, speaking of Republicans, there's one that calls himself a Democrat. Joe Manchin worked to kill a federal minimum wage, worked to kill the best legislation we had an opportunity to pass he managed to hold the line until we lost the Senate majority. Here's a great opportunity we have in a few months to hammer these motherfuckers. There is a well-known Florida man willing to sell his soul to the Republican Party. Anybody who is below the age of 50 and is a member of the Republican Party simply does not have an understanding of what's coming down the pike with global warming. Oh, looks like the White Devil himself is almost here. The Mike's Dead Show. 10 clerks and 4 judges are admitted originalists. Oofa doofa. Pinkerbell. Oh, saying hello. Environmental Coffee House. I see the lefties in the mafia are covering this, but I'd rather be here. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. Pinkerbell, to be fair to Lauren Boebert, I don't think she actually pulled out his D, Jake. That was her ex-husband at a bowling alley when he showed it to teenagers. She was groping over the pants. You're right. Let me issue a correction. Lauren Boebert did not actually pull out in public. That was, in fact, just her ex-husband. The person that she married pulled out his dick in public with a teenager present. That's correct. She was just vaping in the theater and giving a hand joe over the pants. I'm not sure if that's a sexually explicit act, but I'll tell you, I'd very much like the police to figure that one out. George Santos daring to show his face in public, a sign of the times. Republicans, you're an embarrassment. You really are. There's some other Republican who I can't even. What was that, Rubio? I don't even give a shit. I don't know why these justices truly even make small talk. I don't know how you can be in a room with that group and not just say the C word over and over with your middle finger up as hard as you possibly can. I don't know, but maybe that's got something to do with spending your whole career going for a position. Lindsey Graham, famous coward. I'm surprised he's not dressed cosplaying as Donald Trump today. If you have ever voted for Lindsey Graham, just so you know, you don't understand how politics works. You know what? Let me wind that back. If you voted for Lindsey Graham in the last 4 years, then you don't understand how politics works. What you should do is stop voting until you have some sense of how it works. If you voted for him for anything 10 years ago, it's arguable. You had a naivete brought on by the times, but lives have been on the line pretty directly now. The mask has been off for some time. And if you ever thought, for example, that guy, Josh Hawley, the guy that sprinted away from the mob he encouraged, that well-known coward, or Lindsey Graham or Marco Rubio, I would argue maybe Sri Thanadar, even though he mooches off progressives. There are scumbags on our side too. Don't get it twisted. Sri Thanadar is one of them. He is what I call a paper progressive. He's you know what? He's what I'd want in a presidential candidate, except for the charisma. I would take somebody that doesn't give about policy, but is simply willing to do what progressives want, over somebody who's going to desperately try to please a neoliberal hack crowd. Anyway, getting to the point. If you voted for those fucks, Joe Manchin and such, in the last 4 years, now I got to change it again, not Joe Manchin. Keep it to Republicans. If you voted for Lindsey Graham, Josh Hawley, the MAGA crowd, you should not participate in politics because you're just too far gone. If you voted for Joe Manchin, I would recommend a massive rethink of what it is you stand for. In fact, just a think. Just a standard think of what it is you stand for. Is it anything? Because if you voted for Joe Manchin, what you stand for is Joe Manchin's profits. If you voted for those, see you next Tuesdays. Boebert and child sex trafficker Matt Gaetz, who child sex trafficked with his accomplice Joel Greenberg. You're too much of a liability to yourself and others to be trusted with decisions like these. There's a lot of things I don't do because I know I'm simply not capable of it. I could even have the training necessary. For example, I could be trained in the art of surgery. I could go through all of medical school. I could ace all the exams, but I know, truly, I opened up a patient. I'm going to go, all right, well, let's do our first open heart. It's just not for me. That's voting for you. If you got conned by Josh Hawley or Matt Gaetz or Lauren Boebert, you're not meant for that. You're not meant for voting because you're whatever commercial you heard last is what your opinion is, and you're gonna only end up supporting people that hurt you. So leave it to your betters, is what I'm saying. Now, if you voted for Sorry, I hear it very quietly in the background myself because I'm listening for Joe Biden's arrival. If you voted for Joe Manchin, I do want to be clear. I understand. Tough position. You're in Virginia. You can do better. You need to invest in the primaries. If you can't do better than Joe Manchin, you're telling me there's no one in Virginia who is better than Joe Manchin. A plank is better than Joe Manchin. One of those dogs that's mayor of a town is better than Joe Manchin. That bench, not the people that make up the bench, not Rashida Tlaib, who absolutely is better than Joe Manchin. No, the actual physical piece of furniture, the bench, is better than Joe Manchin. So don't tell me there's no one in Virginia. No one in Virginia. There's no one in the the whole state better than that guy. Another trend you might notice when you're looking around the room, the most gross-looking creatures I've ever seen collected all together. I'm not even talking about like looks alone. It's just something about when I see Matt Gaetz, I can like taste like unwashed skin, you know? Like I could just I can smell the stink that must be there. Really a filthy thing Matt Gaetz is. Bella Lugrisi, the State of the Union is public utility, status quo. Pinkerbell, I was watching something on C-SPAN that had footage. Oh, a side note, this is being brought to us by C-SPAN, as you can see there. If you want to see it without my jibber jabber, you can click the link in the description. Pinkerbell, I was watching something on C-SPAN that had footage from a Senate hearing from the 80s. I was really taken aback at how different the room looked than what we are used to in 2024. Expand on that, Pink. Expand on that. What do you mean? How so? Was it a lot whiter? Mars Falcon, on the bright side, with Manchin and Sinema gone, we have a better grasp of how many Dems and how many Republicans are in the Senate. Clarity. True. Mr. G, hello everyone. Good to see you. Mars Falcon and Wireless Mike, it's good to see you both. Oh, Wireless Mike, if you're not familiar, has a channel called My Dramatic Impact. I'm a fan. Just started, and it's fun audio tales. But where were we looking? Oh, yes, the makeup. How so, Pink? All white, all male. We are making some strides. I'll say that. Oh, God, the anti-corporatists. It was probably all the same people, just younger, Pinky. Literally no women to be seen, not even white ones. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Oh, here we go. Mars Falcon, to your point about having a better grasp of how many Dems and Republicans are in the Senate, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I'm not going to give Biden the honors of a big play-in. We'll unmute it when this motherfucker starts giving us his message. He hasn't earned any honors, as far as I'm concerned. Last year, maybe. This year, no, sir. That's a great point, Mars Falcon. That's a fantastic point. Because Manchin was the 51st vote in the Senate. He tried to leverage that by being such a centrist that he in fact skewed quite Republican. He wanted to be the kingmaker. All bills had to get his approval. Biden, pathetically, crawled on his hands and knees to try to please this guy. What did Sinema do? She saw the opportunity. She said, oh, ho, ho, kingmaker. Kingmaker. That's the 51st vote. I'm the 50th vote. I can screw over way more people. She killed the federal minimum wage increase. Remember that little clip of her doing a curtsy with a thumbs down? While dressed like an anime villain? That was her killing the minimum wage increase. All working class Americans would have had more money, even if you're not a federal employee, just because you're surrounded by them, and they would have all had more money to spend at your business or your neighbor's business. There would have been more money for all. She killed that. So did Joe These punks need to go forever. I don't know about you guys, but I was fascinated by Harvey K last night. I didn't give him on camera the respect he deserves. So let me at least make up for that somewhat in this moment here. He was a fascinating interview. I literally could have let him just tell stories all night. I mean, amazing slices of life, especially from the point of view of a historian. But what bummed me out so much about the stories was the absolute ignorance written across America, written across the elites. They're separated from reality. Will.i.am out there having no idea who Harvey K is, so he sees he's a guy next to Norman Lear, so he must be big in the industry. Hey, let's do a hug. Okay. Okay. A crowd full of people being told, this is Norman Lear. You idiots don't know. And they didn't know. Or at least if they figured it out, they were quiet about it. Like just watching him walk through the aristocracy as an educated man, it painted a picture for me of what that room is like. These are people who have absolutely no sense at all of what America is like. They only know what rooms like that are like. They know they are so kind to each other and so hesitant to attack each other openly because they're in rooms like that constantly. Everything is nice, everything is safe, everything's a little bit fancy. They don't have to worry about where their meals are going to come from. They don't have to worry about if they're going to be able to pay for a doctor's visit. They don't have to worry about what will happen to their children. They don't have to worry about their safety. The longer you're in that room, the less of a human being you are, in my experience, because it is designed to get people to make callous decisions. People with a face like that. You see Manchin? That devil there? People with a face like that. That's what that room creates. If one of you runs for office and you're let's hope better than that creature, one of you runs for office and makes it, I would like you, fuck you, Merrick Garland. How dare he even show up? How dare my former governor stand next to him? Granholm, what the hell are you doing? She should know better than that. Anyway, if one of you makes it to that room, I urge you to push a law that requires the people who are in that room to go back to the communities they represent and stay there and live amongst those people as those people for, let's say, 50% of the time. Not in your cottage in between. Not on a fun little trip to Italy where you're staying at a villa. Don't allow your representatives to wall themselves off from the effects of their decisions, which you must endure. I'm a big believer in the public transit rule. I think every representative should be required at least once a year to tour their district using nothing but public transit. I think that alone would have a massive effect on how public transit functions. I'll tell you this. If I wanted to hop on a bus and go to Detroit, this is not an exaggeration, it would take me longer than it would take me to walk to Detroit. It takes me 15 minutes, admittedly, to navigate the city with a car. But it only takes me 20 minutes to walk to Detroit because I cut across parks. I shouldn't be able to beat a bus, though. We can make that law a reality. And by the way, even though I recommend voting for motherfuckers like this, this is not a permanent state of being that I suggest. I think we are dealing with a serious movement now, which means our plans necessarily will span multiple elections. We exist now, progressives. Frankly, I don't think we did in any organized manner 20 years ago. At least no progressive movement that has lasted to this day existed. I don't think a caucus existed. I think that's probably a more accurate way to put it. I don't think a caucus existed 20 years ago. It's not that progressives didn't. It's not that you guys didn't. But there was nothing to represent you. Now there is. And it's mostly through communication. The fact that any one of us can hop on and talk to a couple thousand of us means we can sway elections now. We don't have to rely on these motherfuckers. We don't need to rely on a campaign ad. We're going to be taking advantage of that. We should already, in my opinion, with the most radical amongst us, we should already be planning for 2028. We should have an if or, oh wait, here we go. Here we get protests.
This is about you. This is about the soul of the nation.
Oh, we're getting protests. Are they trying to drown out protests? Oh, I hope so. Bless you. Go for yourself. It's stuff like that that makes people not trust Democrats, and rightly so. Bless you, sir. You can say he's done a better than average job amongst U.S. presidents and acknowledge at the same time that that is a disgracefully low watermark. That's at best that it's vague as to whether or not he should be in prison. Make what right? Mixed messages, but that's their intention. Being escorted by a frog there. I'm sorry, that's just the most frog-looking guy I've ever seen. Not even unhandsome, he just distinctly looks like a frog.
How are you doing? Today is the 59th anniversary of the police center. Oh, good.
Did somebody try to hit him with today is the 59th anniversary? What are you going to communicate in 10 seconds? Oh my God, this is painful. Everybody wants a fucking selfie, huh? Now is a good time for that. What are you trying to communicate? What are you trying to communicate to your followers? That person right there is saying volumes with that picture. Why the fuck are you talking to Manchin?
This guy has completed
Tough act. It'd be hard. It'd be hard to follow that act, building on the ashes of what he's left behind. He did fuck it up real bad. That's true. Can't argue that. Oh, more selfies. Bold. Here's a quick thing. If you're going to be obnoxious enough to take a selfie with the president during the State of the Union and not just grab a screenshot of you guys shaking hands or whatever, have the camera ready to go. Fuck's sake. All right, I don't give a fuck about these people anymore. Let's see what the Wicked community has to say. Aaron W., surely MTG has to be embezzling or something to get her the F out. I am quite sure that is the case. Oh my God. Sorry, I just remembered a long-term project that I need to update. Environmental Coffee House. I really don't want to watch this. Well, look, I find it very useful, and I enjoy watching this stuff. Maybe for the same reason that I enjoy getting choked just a little bit. But LMAO, public utility, what are we talking about? The anti-corporatist. Oh, Donald James X is here. Good to see you, Donald James. Where did I just saw there? All right, well, an actual cloud. Glad to see Biden and eyes with eyes wide open, hoping he took some crack before this. There's always a chance. The anti-corporatist. 10 seconds in his ear in this setting. You got him, champ. Give him hell. Yeah, that's all you can do. Environmental Coffee House. I know, Jake, but it stresses me out to see these people. Yeah, mark your targets. These are all people we're going to replace in the next 4 years. Think about how short a time 4 years actually is. This is the State of the Union in 2024. I look forward to the State of the Union in 2028, when these people have been whittled down through scandal that we bring to light, when these people are getting crushed in the polls by progressive contenders, by the crop of people who are watching this right now, hating seeing these motherfuckers. Imagine that 4 years from now. Let's act like we intend to win. And let's have serious plans. Serious plans, in my view, are slow and require constant light pressure. Why constant light pressure? Because it's very hard to defend against constant pressure, and it's also very hard to keep up constant pressure. So you do constant light pressure. We have a system already designed for that, which we do not use. There's more than just this, but let's start with what we don't use. We should be emailing our representatives about once a week, every single week, about some issue, so that in their mind, they have a view of America which is accurate to America, because they live in that room, which is not America, in my humble opinion. That is an enclave of the rich and powerful, not America. He's going to go tell America what it's like to be an American from that goddamn room. I'll believe it's a real State of the Union when there's a progressive and a ratty-ass Jim giving a speech in a used microphone that the principal used that afternoon. Contact your representatives regularly. Also, protest your representatives. If you contact them and they go against your wishes, I have a type of protest I want to introduce. It needs only a few of you. We'll talk about that later. Let's hear this f***ing clown try to pitch us on how things are going great. Well, he kills children.
Thank you.
The ghouls love it.
David Jill.
Mike Johnson so badly wants to be in that
Good
crowd.
evening.
He designed his hair to please that crowd.
Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now.
Nah, that's a good joke.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans, in January 1941, Franklin Roosevelt came to this chamber to speak to the nation, and he said, "I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people that this was no ordinary time.
I think he's going to try
Freedom
to
and
pretend
democracy
like
were under
what's
assault in
happening
the world. Tonight,
in Gaza.
I come
is
to
that
this same chamber to address the nation.
asshole.
Now, it's we who face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union. And yes, My purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either. Not since
after
President
Trump in
Lincoln and the
Congress.
Civil War
I'll take that.
have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment
Excellent.
rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time. Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond.
Good. That's true.
If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
True. Already leaked plans that he plans on Poland next. Poland
But
next.
Ukraine-
Who does that remind you of? Family Guy did a pretty good joke
Ukraine
about it.
can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine and provide the weapons that it needs to defend itself.
Peter Jeffries. He's done a good job thus far.
That is all. That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American soldiers. In fact, there are no American soldiers at war in Ukraine, and I'm determined to keep it that way. But now, assistance to Ukraine is
territorial
being
defense.
blocked by those who want to walk away from our world leadership.
Boom.
Wasn't long ago when a Republican president named Ronald Reagan thundered, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Now, my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want."
Boom.
That's a quote. A former president actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable.
It's good. It's good for the few Republicans that watch this to hear this stuff.
America is a founding member of NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace. And today, we've made NATO stronger than ever. We welcomed Finland to the alliance last year. And just this morning, Sweden officially joined, and their minister is here tonight. Come here, stand up.
Welcome to the good
Welcome.
fight. I didn't even
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
care about NATO until Russia made it a problem. Now, yeah, join the defense.
And they
of the
know how
line.
to
Come on,
fight.
Ruskies.
Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to NATO, the strongest military alliance the world
So
has
we can
ever
send
seen.
off missiles somewhere that
I say this to Congress, we have to
Blowing
stand
up
up to
Russians.
Putin. Send me a bipartisan national security bill. History is literally watching. History is watching. If the United States walks away,
just in case
It will
there's
put
any
Ukraine
Republicans
at
watching,
risk.
note how
Europe is
chilled
at
they
risk.
are about
the free
standing
world
up
will be at
to
risk,
Putin.
emboldening others to do what
foreign
they wish
dictator.
to do us harm.
Y'all are in the traitor party.
My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away.
Boom. Good.
We will not bow down. I will not bow down. In a literal sense, history is watching. History is watching. Just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th, when insurrectionists stormed this very Capitol and placed a dagger to the throat of American democracy.
There you go.
Many of you were here on that darkest of days.
We know
We
Josh
all
Howley
saw
was.
with our own eyes the insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War. But they failed. America stood.
And look at Mike Johnson. I don't know about that. What do you disagree with
America stood
specifically, you
strong,
traitor?
and democracy prevailed.
No, really. You come across a Republican
We
having
must
that
be
response.
honest.
What specifically about
The
that
threat
do you
to
disagree
democracy
with?
must be
You
defended.
traitor.
My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury
Scum.
the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. This is the moment to speak the truth and to bury the lies. Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win.
Boom. Just let him go. He's cooking. Just let him cook. Don't worry. He will frustrate us during this speech. But let him cook while he's cooking.
As I've done ever since being elected to office, I ask all of you without regard to party to join together and defend democracy. Remember your oath of office of defending against all threats, foreign and domestic. Respect, respect free and fair elections, restore trust in our institutions, and make clear political violence has absolutely no place in America, zero place. Again, it's not hyperbole to suggest history is watching. We're watching. Your children and grandchildren will read about this day and what we do. History is watching another assault on freedom. Joining us tonight is Latoya Beasley, a social worker from Birmingham, Alabama. 14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to the miracle of IVF. She scheduled treatments to have that second child, but the Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait.
Johnson, are you scowling
what
at?
her family had got through should never have happened. Unless Congress acts, it could happen again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like hers. To my friends across the aisle, don't keep this waiting any longer.
Why those women are wearing
Guarantee the right to AVF.
Gentlemen should be too, in my opinion.
Guarantee it nationwide.
Standing with these for reproductive freedom. Mike Johnson, just a tiny bit smarter than Kevin McCarthy. He's at least committing
like most
to
Americans, I
clapping.
believe Roe v. Wade got it right. I thank Vice President Harris for being an incredible leader, defending reproductive freedom, and so much more. Thank you. My predecessor came to office determined to see Roe v. Wade overturned. He's the reason it was overturned, and he brags about it. Look at the chaos that has resulted. Joining us tonight is Kate Cox, the wife and mother from Dallas. She's become pregnant again and had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kate that her own life and her ability to have children in the future were at risk if she didn't act. Because Texas law banned her ability to act, Kate and her husband had to leave the state to get what she needed. What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening in too many others. There are state laws banning the freedom to choose,
the money to leave,
criminalizing doctors, forcing survivors of rape and incest to leave their states to get the treatment they need.
Didn't apply to her.
Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising to pass a national ban on reproductive freedom. My God, what freedom else would you take away?
Boom!
Look.
Great line.
It's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following, and with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that.
So far, so good.
Clearly.
You all know I'm going to be interested in how he addresses Israel, but that doesn't mean, even if I hate his response on that, it doesn't mean he's wrong on these issues. And it's important for these folks to cane.
Those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women. But they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024.
Look at him. Look at him. They presided over
If
boom, and they know it.
you, the American people, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
Now, there structurally is the primary thing I agree with Biden on.
Folks,
He's subservient
America
to
cannot go
Congress
back.
at the end of the day.
I'm here tonight to show what I believe is the way forward, because I know how far we come. 4 years ago next week, before I came to office, the country was hit by the worst pandemic and the worst economic crisis in a century. Remember the fear, record losses? Remember the spikes in crime and the murder rate, raging virus that took more than 1 million American lives, of loved ones, millions left behind? A mental health crisis of isolation and loneliness. A president, my predecessor, failed the most basic presidential duty that he owes to American people, the duty to care. I think that's unforgivable. I came to office determined to get us through one of the toughest periods in the nation's history.
Steamroll 'em.
We have.
Fucking clowns.
It doesn't make news in 1,000 cities and towns. The American people are writing the greatest comeback story never told.
One thing to keep in mind when it comes to voting this election, a whole lot of Trump supporters don't believe in
So let's tell the
vaccinations.
story here. Tell it here and now. America's comeback is building the future of American possibilities, building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down, investing in all America, in all Americans, to make sure everyone has a fair shot, and we leave no one behind. The pandemic no longer controls our lives. The vaccines that saved us from COVID are now being used to beat cancer, turning setback into comeback. That's what America does. That's what America does. Folks, my inherited economy is on the brink. Now our economy is literally the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs in just 3 years, a record, a record. Unemployment at 50-year lows.
Calm down, Kamala, but still a good thing.
A record 16 million Americans are starting small businesses, and each one is a literal act of hope. With historic job growth and small business growth for Black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting. Where is it written we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world? We are, we will. More people have health insurance today. More people have health insurance today than ever before. The racial wealth gap is as small as it's been in 20 years. Wages keep going up, inflation keeps coming down. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world and tending lower.
Look, it's not exciting, but it is good
The
for
landing
Republicans
is and
to
will
hear
be soft.
mostly because Fox will have to respond
Now,
to this,
instead of
and it will only
importing
make it
foreign
Fox
products and
business.
exporting American
Nonetheless.
jobs, we're exporting
Nonetheless.
American products and
Those
creating
Haley voters will
American
hear
jobs.
economy good?
Right here in America, where they belong.
Yes, economy good. Technically, based on
And
the
it
American
takes time,
standard,
but the American people are
which
beginning
is
to
rich
feel
people
it.
first.
Consumer studies show consumer confidence is soaring. Buy America has been the law of the land since the 1930s. Past administrations, including my predecessor,
No one believes
including some Democrats as well in the past, failed to buy American. Not anymore. On my watch, federal projects that you fund, like helping build American roads, bridges, and highways, will be made with American products and built by American workers.
This, by the way, folks, is why government projects are good.
Creating
Because the
good-paying
bottom
American
line
jobs.
is not necessarily to make money. It's to help America.
And
Government roads,
thanks to our
government
CHIPS and
railroads,
Science
etc.
Act, the United States is investing more in research and development than ever before. During the pandemic, a shortage of semiconductors, chips, that drove up the price of everything from cell phones to automobiles. And by the way, we invented those chips right here in America. Well, instead of having to
Not wrong.
import them, instead of private companies are now investing billions of dollars to build new chip factories here in America, creating tens of thousands of jobs. Many of those jobs paying $100,000 a year and don't require a college degree.
I like how we just acknowledged what a scam that was for the millennial generation.
In fact, my policies have attracted $650 billion in private sector investment in clean energy, advanced manufacturing, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America. And thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you have strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with you.
Sorry, Pete Buttigieg just bums me out.
But if any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know. Modernizing our roads and bridges, ports and airports, public transit systems. Removing poisonous lead pipes so every child can drink clean water without risk of brain damage.
Boy, one of Michigan's greatest failures was not successfully convicting
affordable high-speed
Rick Snyder
internet for every American, no matter where you live, urban, suburban, or rural communities, in red states and blue states.
I'd rather see you try and fail.
Record investments in tribal communities. Because of my investment in family farms, because I invested in family farms led by my Secretary of Agriculture, who knows more about this than anybody I know, we're better able to stay in the family for those farms and their children and grandchildren won't have to leave home to make a living. It's transformative. The great comeback story is Belvedere, Illinois, home to an auto plant for nearly 60 years.
Right, let's hear your...
Before I came to office, the plant was on its way to shutting down. Thousands of workers feared for their livelihoods. Hope was fading. Then I was elected to office, and we raised the Belvedere repeatedly with auto companies, knowing unions would make all the difference. The UAW worked like hell to keep the plant open and get these jobs back, and together we succeeded. Instead of auto factories shutting down, auto factories reopening, a new state-of-the-art battery factories being built to power those cars.
They're shutting up.
The same. The folks of Belvedere, I say, instead of your town being left behind, your community is moving forward again. Because instead of watching auto jobs in the future go overseas, 4,000 union jobs with higher wages are building the future in Belvedere right here in America.
Sean Fain. Wait, when did he take that gal's seat?
UAW President Sean Fain, a great friend and a great labor leader. Sean, where are you? Stand up. And Dawn Sims, a third-generation worker, UAW worker at Belvedere. Sean, I was proud to be the first president to stand on the picket line, and today, Dawn has a good job in her hometown, providing stability for her family and pride and dignity as well. Showing once again, Wall Street didn't build America. They're not bad guys. They didn't build it, though. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class.
Good message. We can disagree on whether or not they're bad guys, but it's a good message. They did not build America. You did. Human beings did.
I
not
say to the
Bain
American
Capital,
people,
not
when
the
America
rich
gets
that
knocked
run.
down, we get back up. We keep going. That's America. That's you, the American people. It's because of you America's coming back. It's because of you our future is brighter. It's because of you that tonight we can proudly say the state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
Now, before he touches on it, answer this honestly if you can in the comments. What could he say about Palestine right now, Israel and Palestine, that would make you happy? Oh, dear. 4 more years. Yeah. I just don't like ever making these motions.
Tonight, I want to talk about the future of possibilities
other than beginning with an
that we
apology.
can build together.
You began
A future
with an
where
apology.
the days of trickle-down economics are over, and the wealthy and the
This
biggest
I wanna
corporations
hear.
no
This
longer
is
get
good.
all the tax breaks. And by the way, I understand corporations. I come from a state that has more corporations invested than every one of your states in the state of the United States combined. And I represented it for 36 years. I'm not anti-corporation, but I grew up in a home where trickle-down economics didn't put much on my dad's kitchen table.
Close to
That's
an
why I
apology.
determined to turn things around so the
Acknowledgement
middle
that his
class does
leadership
well.
is not
When
related
they
to
do well, the
Palestine.
poor go way up and the wealthy still do very well.
Acknowledgement that
We all do
followed
well.
neoliberalism.
And there's more to do to make sure you're feeling the benefits of all we're doing. Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world. It's wrong, and
Well, anyway,
I'm
yes.
ending it.
Answer that if you can in the comments. What could he say about Israel and Palestine that would make you receptive to what else he's got to say? For me, if it began with an apology, and then he announced
There's a
that we
law
are doing a
that I
whole
proposed
new
and signed.
take on our relationship
Not one of
with
your
that
Republican
country under
buddies
that leadership.
voted for it. We finally
That's
beat Big
what I want.
Pharma.
Not what I will.
Instead
That's
of
what I want.
paying $400 a month or thereabouts for insulin with diabetes, and it only costs $10 to make, they only get paid $35 a month now and still make a healthy profit. And I want to, but what to do next? I want to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for every American who needs it. Everyone. For years, people have talked about it, but finally we got it done and gave Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices on prescription drugs, just like the VA is able to do for veterans. That's not just saving seniors money, it's saving taxpayers money. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion. Because Medicare will no longer have to pay those exorbitant prices to Big Pharma. This year, Medicare is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs on the market to treat everything from heart disease to arthritis.
Medicare.
It's now time to go further and give Medicare the power to
can
negotiate lower prices for 500 different drugs over the next decade.
That's going to save lives in a very boring way. Most of the things that make the
They're
world
making
better
a lot of money,
will
guys.
be boring. That's one. There's a
And
huge
they'll
win.
still be extremely profitable.
By the way, that's a weakness
Will not
MAGA
only
represents.
save
They
lives,
cannot
it will
follow
save
boring.
taxpayers another
They don't understand how it
$200
works.
billion. Starting next year, the same law caps total prescription drug costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year, even for expensive cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. I want to
credit to
cap
Bernie on
prescription
that,
drug costs at
correct.
$2,000 a year for everyone. Folks,
Baker's dozen cats. My husband's comments are pissing me off. Stop it.
I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but then you want to get in Air Force One, we're going to fly to Toronto, Berlin, Moscow. Excuse me. Well, even Moscow, probably.
I'll never.
And bring your prescription with you, and I promise you I'll get it for you for 40% the cost you're paying now. Same company, same drug, same place.
I think you called it.
Folks,
Bernie did
the
that.
Affordable Care Act, the old Obamacare, is still a very big deal.
Lars Falcon, the power to negotiate for medicine is huge. Agreed. Johnny Too Late for the video. Looking good, Jake. A message from the Andrea and Matt screen. They're on right now?
Over 100 million of you can no longer be denied health insurance because of pre-existing condition. Well, my predecessor, and many in this chamber,
with the bingo board.
want to take this prescription drug away by repealing Affordable Care Act.
Midstream. Can I invite myself on?
I'm not going to let that happen. We
I
stopped
wouldn't
you
want to
50
introduce
times
my
before and we'll stop
distinctive
you
element to
again.
their screen if it's not part of.
In fact,
what
I'm not
they-
only
what they're
protecting it,
going
I'm
for.
expanding
My
it.
distinctive element being
They
flatulence
enacted tax
generally.
credits,
But,
$800 per person per year, reduce health care costs for millions of working
but I'm
families.
delighted. I'm going to be watching.
That tax credit
as soon as this
expires
is
next
done.
year. I want to make that savings permanent. To state the obvious, women are more than half our population. But research on women's health has always been underfunded.
Maybe included not catching
That's why we're
COVID or
launching the
contracting
first ever
measles.
White House initiative on women's health research, led by Jill, doing an incredible job as First Lady.
Oh, he's praising the wife. John Ross from the Solidarity Report. Matt and Andrea say good looking. Oh, well, all right.
So pass
Oh,
my
looking
plan
good.
for $12
I
billion
choose to read
to
it. That's
transfer women's health research and benefit millions of lives all across America. I know the cost of housing is so important
Well,
to
I
you.
was trying to pull up the specific.
If inflation keeps coming down, mortgage rates will come down as well.
But
and the
here's
Fed
the
acknowledges
gist I
that.
got from the audience.
But I'm
yeah,
not
he's kinda
waiting.
telling us the truth.
I want to provide an
It'd be
annual
great
tax credit
about Israel and
that will give
Palestine.
Americans $400 a month for
How
the
about
next 2
30
years
times as many
as mortgage
dead
rates come down
civilians on the
to
Palestinian
put
side?
toward their mortgages when they buy their
Measured
first
groups
home
that had nothing to
or
do with
trade
this.
up for a little more
30 times
space.
as many dead guys. We can
Just for 2 years.
whatever you do in that. That's what I want to hear. Literally doing nothing. Literally doing nothing.
And my administration is also eliminating title insurance on federally backed mortgages. When you refinance your home, you can save $1,000 or more as a consequence. For millions of renters, we're cracking down on big landlords who use antitrust law, who break antitrust
Good.
laws by
Canada
price
had a
fixing
very
and driving
interesting
up
solution
rents.
to this, by the way. They banned
We've
foreign
cut red
companies
tape
from
so
buying
builders
rental
can get
homes.
federally
I think we should do
financing,
the
which
same.
is already helping build a record
We're gonna
1.7
have,
million new
be
housing
ruled
units
by
nationwide.
aristocratic scum. At least make it
Now
our local
pass.
scum. You know, somebody in strangling distance. Someone who's going to be nervous
Now
that
pass
we
and
might
build
find.
and renovate
Well, I think.
2 million affordable homes and bring those rents down. To remain the strongest economy in the world, we need to have the best education system in the world. And I, like I suspect all of you, want to give a child, every child, a good start by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old.
I just max bombed their screen.
You know, I think I
dropped
pointed
in
out last
a
year.
bunch of emojis of Max the dog. Doing that help for the algorithm. I wonder if the person
I
holding
think
up
I
the cane
pointed out last year that
understands
children coming from broken homes where
historical
there's no
context.
books, they're not
They
read to,
are
not spoken to very
possibly
often.
accidentally
Start
referenced.
school, kindergarten, or first grade, having heard 1 million fewer words spoken. Well, studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school, go on to earn a 2- and 4-year degree, no matter what their background is. I met a year and a half ago with the leaders of the Business Roundtable. They were mad that they were angry, I think, well, they were discussing why I wanted to spend money on education. I pointed out to them as vice president, I met with over I think it was 182 of those folks. Don't hold me to the exact number. And I asked them what they need most, the CEOs. And you've had the same experience on both sides of the aisle. They say a better educated workforce, right? So I looked at them and I say, I come from Delaware. DuPont used to be the 8th largest corporation in the world.
Letter
And every new
scoundrel.
enterprise they bought, they educated the workforce to that enterprise. But none of you do that anymore.
I don't know what to tell you.
Why are you angry
She's
with
got a
me
maximum.
providing you the opportunity for the best educated workforce in the world? And they all looked at me and said,
Emoji, letter hack,
I think you're right. I want to expand high-quality tutoring and summer learning to see that every child learns to read by 3rd grade.
You didn't, but I would have loved it if you said by high school. That would have been, that would have been something
I'm also
special.
connecting local businesses and high schools so students get hands-on experience and a path to a good-paying job whether or not they go to college. And I want to make sure that college is more affordable. Let's continue increasing the Pell Grants to working and middle-class families and increase record investments
Letter hack,
in
you're not
HBCUs, and minority-serving institutions, including Hispanic institutions.
You rascal.
And I was told I couldn't universally just change the way in which we dealt with student loans. I fixed 2 student loan programs that already existed to reduce the burden of student debt for nearly 4 million Americans, including nurses, firefighters, and others in public service.
Now this right here, I think, is the case
Like
for
Keenan
Joe
Jones,
Biden.
a public educator from Minnesota, who's here with us tonight. Keenan, where are you? Keenan,
Correct
thank you.
to say he could
He's
have
educated
done more.
hundreds of students so
But
they
the
can go to
reality is,
college.
in cases
now
like
he's
this,
able to help
he
after
has
debt
done
forgiveness
more
get his
than any
own
other
daughter
president.
to college.
Like the idea that you could just forgive student loans. Now that we have that on the table, now we start
And
pushing
folks,
for
look.
things and take it to its logical conclusion.
Such relief is good for the
For
economy
example,
because
having
folks are
unions
now
say,
able to buy a home,
we will not endorse the
start
president
a business,
until
start
all
a
of our
family.
members have their student loans forgiven.
While we're at
Unions
it,
across the board
I
saying
want
that they
the
just
public
gotta
school
forgive every
teachers
student.
a raise.
Pressure these people. Pressure people running in primaries. And have people running in the primaries to have enough attention on them to be worth pressuring. That's how it's going to work. If we get a lukewarm 2024,
And by the way, the first couple
where
of years
we
we
hold
cut
on to power,
the deficit.
keep it away from fascists.
Now, let me speak to the
We
question
can
of fundamental
build
fairness
you
for all
a,
Americans. I've been
scorching
delivering
hot
real results in fiscally
2028,
responsible ways.
where, by the way,
We've already
we will
cut the
have
federal
the best
deficit.
presidential
We've already cut the
candidate
federal
sticking
deficit
their
over $1
necks out.
trillion.
Because nobody who believes they can
I
win runs
signed the
against an incumbent.
bipartisan deal.
You can agree or disagree with whether or
Cut
not
another
that should
$1
be.
trillion in the next
I don't think
decade.
it should be, but that is the way
It's
it
my
is.
goal to cut the federal deficit another $3 trillion by making big corporations and very wealthy finally beginning to pay their fair share.
This is I'm watching
Look,
the State of the Union by somebody who ran against the incumbent.
I'm a capitalist.
Take everything I say.
You want a maker can make a million or millions of bucks, that's great. Just pay your fair share in taxes.
But in fairness, these are historically bad incumbents.
A fair tax
Also,
code.
look at that
It's how we
message.
invest things to
Pay
make
your
this country
taxes,
great.
billionaires.
Healthcare, education, defense, and so
Also,
much more.
a shot against
but here's
Trump.
the deal. The
Excellent.
last administration
This is good
enacted a
politicking.
$2 trillion tax cut. Overwhelmingly benefit the top 1%, the very wealthy and the biggest corporation. And
That's a good
exploded
move.
the federal deficit. They added
Boom.
more to the national debt than any presidential
I
term
don't
in
love that
American
flag.
history.
Wait, was that a Ukrainian flag?
Check the
It might have been.
numbers. Folks at
Never mind, I do
home,
like
does
the flag.
anybody really think the tax code is fair? Do you really
Boom.
think the wealthy and big corporations
Good.
need another $2 trillion tax break? I
Here we
sure
go.
don't. I'm going to keep fighting like hell to make it fair. Under
Correcting
my
the people
plan,
against
nobody
the correct enemy.
earning less than $400,000
Now he
will
puts
pay additional
Trump in the
penny in
position
federal taxes.
of having to
Nobody,
talk about
not
the
one
rich
penny.
being taxed.
And they haven't yet.
He's going to give terrible answers, and his followers,
fact,
who are loud, will still loudly support him. But the people
The
who are
child tax
planning on
credit I
supporting
passed
him
during the pandemic cut taxes for millions
who
of
weren't very
working
loud
families
about it
and
are
cut
more
child
likely to
poverty
just
in
stay
half.
home.
Restore
Also, it
that
takes-
child tax credit.
Also, it takes the centrist Dems and makes them think, oh, big business bad? Brr.
Very wealthy began to pay their fair share.
The
Remember in
simple message is what
2020,
we need.
55 of
really
the
is
biggest
that
companies in America made $40
Let 'em
billion
cook, baby.
and paid zero in federal income tax. Zero. Not anymore. Thanks to the law I wrote and we signed, big companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. But that's still less than working people pay in federal taxes. It's time to raise corporate minimum tax to at least 21%.
Dan paused
So
on him
every
for a
big
good 10
corporation
seconds and
finally
laughed.
begins to pay their fair share.
I'll tell you how much of a political nerd I am. I'm going to
Also
go
want to end tax
tonight
breaks for
while
big
I'm
pharma,
wrapped
big
in my
oil,
blanket
private jets,
and
massive
watch
executive
this
pay when it's only
about
supposed to be
$4 or $5
$1
times
million
over.
that could be
Leftist
deducted.
Mafia
They can pay them
after
$20 million if they
Andrea
want,
Nat,
but deduct $1 million.
After
End
Dan.
it now. You know, there are 1,000
Joy
billionaires in
Report did well.
America.
Look at that.
You know what the average federal tax is for those billionaires? No. They're making great sacrifices, -- That's far less than the vast majority of Americans pay. No billionaire should pay a lower federal
Look at
tax
that.
rate than a teacher, a sanitation worker, or a nurse.
Master won't like this. Master will be displeased.
I propose a minimum tax for billionaires of 25%, just 25%. You know what that would raise? That would raise $500 billion over the next 10 years.
25%.
And imagine what that could do for America.
That's huge.
Imagine a
That's
future
a massive
with
policy
affordable
announcement.
child care. Millions of families can get they need to go to work to help grow the economy.
Mike Johnson
Imagine
is looking
a
at
future
what
with
he's
paid
going to have
leave,
to run against.
because no
He's
one should have to
listening
choose
to
between
what
working
he's
and
going
taking
to have to
care
run
of their
against.
sick
This is a
family
brilliant
members.
piece of policy.
Imagine the future of home care and elder care.
Excellent.
And people living with disabilities, so they can stay in
Understand
their homes
that in
and
the,
family
the
caregivers
60s,
can
the
finally
early 70s,
get the pay
it was
they
something
deserve.
like 90%.
Tonight, let's all agree once again to stand up
90%.
for seniors.
Once upon a time in America,
Many of my friends
that was what the wealthiest paid
on the other
in
side of the aisle
taxes
want to
after
put
they'd
Social
already
Security on the
received
chopping block.
the highest amount you can receive.
If anyone here tries
in
to
the
cut
tax
Social
bracket.
Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will.
Yes,
stop
raising
you.
it from 8 to 25%. What a massive, massive policy for it. And look at the Republicans.
The
They
working
hate
people.
it, and America is going to love it.
The working people who built this
This is
country
what Joe Biden should be
pay
running.
more into
Good.
Social Security than millionaires and billionaires do. It's not fair. We have two ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut?
He baited him again!
I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealthy. That's good to hear. I'll protect and strengthen Social Security and make the wealthy
You're
pay
gonna lie
their
about
fair
what you
share.
stand for? Everybody applauding. Mike Johnson saw McCarthy. He knows not to get it on camera, but look at that shit. Look at them. It's like they've been hit by a
raise
car
prices
and
to
they're
pad
in the
the
air,
profits,
flipping around, realizing.
Charging more and more for less and less. That's why we're cracking down on corporations that engage in price gouging and deceptive pricing, from food to healthcare to housing. In fact, the snack companies think you won't notice if they change the size of the bag and put a hell of a lot fewer, same size bag, put fewer chips in it. No, I'm
He's
not joking.
actually talking about things that
Pass
we
Bobby
will
Casey's
have
bill and
experience.
stop this.
It's a childish example, but it's
I really mean
of
it.
use. It illustrates a point. Corporations cuss. They cuss every chance they get. Tax these motherfuckers. That's the answer. You profit
You
off
probably
that
all saw
degree?
that
Well, now you're
commercial
paying for
on
a road. Now
Snickers
you're paying
bars.
for fire departments.
You get charged the same amount, and you got about, I don't know, 10% fewer Snickers in it. Look, I'm also getting rid of junk fees. Those hidden fees at the end of your bill that are there without your knowledge. My administration announced we're cutting credit card late fees from $32 to $8.
All fine.
Banks
What I'm
and
hearing.
credit card companies.
Look, that's good. I'm sure I'll be watching the replay and thinking, Christ, I shouldn't have muted it. But here's what I'm hearing. He's pitching not to you and me. He's pitching still to centrists. But he's doing so with the kind of policies you and I have been talking about, specifically on this channel, for its entire existence. That's huge. This doesn't mean Joe Biden's a saint. It's deeply concerning he's not talking about Israel. But he knows that's a losing issue. I'm assessing him just as a politician here. It tells me he had a bunch of people in a room tell him progressive issues are popular, lean into that. Here is where we can be progressive and get away with it. Good. This eats away at the power of those who stand against us. This, frankly, eats away at the power of those who ultimately are responsible for 30,000 dead in Gaza now. The giant business, the rich and powerful, who exist just to make the world worse, frankly.
Oh,
right.
you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill?
Oh, let's hear
I'll
it
be
again.
darned. Said a border step. In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now. What do you get?
I don't want to hear the applause for that because
the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming. The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know.
So he's now pitching far right to the center. So listen to what he's doing. He is reaching out to the far left and the far right. He is, of course, going to learn, especially when the new polls come in, that the far right has not budged at all. Even if you find it distasteful, if somebody polls you, I would say something to the effect of, I was happy with Joe Biden's State of the Union, so that he sees that we are a winnable demographic. I literally don't even care if in your heart that's the case. The goal is not to make Joe Biden happy. The goal is to get him to do things that we want. Oh, let's see. Oh, this is too good.
Really,
take a drink. Yeah, let her look like the clown she is.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand. But look, if we change the dynamic at the border, people pay these smugglers $8,000 to get across the border because they know if they get the idea is it's highly unlikely that people will pay that money.
Right now. Just understand it for what it is. That's him pitching far-right policies, attempting to win over the center. A pin of a filthy illegal victim, a victim of a filthy illegal. I'm curious to see how he's going to react to the post-speech polling. And I'll make a prediction now that Andrea and Matt, I suspect, are going to disagree with. He's going to tack further left because Bibi Netanyahu is a headache, because these conservatives are irrational, and because it is frankly easier to lean on progressive policy, as in it is simpler because it doesn't rely on lies.
Separate families.
Oh, I'm getting a standing on.
I will not ban people because of their faith. Unlike my predecessor on my first day in office, I introduced a comprehensive
also, you remember
bill
what
to
I
fix
said?
our immigration system.
I thought
Take
they
a
ought
look
to
at
do.
it. It has all these and more.
Use the hate speech of the right. Use the dog whistles of the right to appeal to folks on the right without actually enacting far-right policies. Sounds like he wants to enact far-right policies, but let's see where this goes.
From old and new. Home to Native Americans whose ancestors have been here for thousands of years. Home to people of from every place on earth. They came freely. Some came in chains. Some came when famine struck, like my ancestral family in Ireland. Some to flee persecution, to chase dreams that are impossible anywhere but here in America.
Some came
That's
in chains.
America. And we all come from somewhere.
Some came with my ancestors
but we're all
from famine in
Americans.
Ireland. Equally bad.
Look, folks, we have a simple choice. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I'm ready to fix it. Send me the border
What
bill
specifically,
now.
Mike Johnson, are you talking about? Amazing. This is what I want done.
Transformational moment in
Bunch
history.
of idiots
Happened
clapping like
59 years ago today in Selma, Alabama.
Jackasses have no idea what they're talking about.
Hundreds of foot soldiers for justice marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, to claim their fundamental right to vote. They were beaten, they were bloody, and left for dead. Our late friend and former colleague John Lewis was on that march. We miss him.
Oh, Johnson giving a head nod to
Joining
decency.
us tonight, our other marchers, both in the gallery and on the floor, including Betty Mae Fikes, known
Ray
as the voice of
Sandragon.
Selma.
Mike is trying not to cry.
The daughter of gospel singers and preachers. She sang songs of prayer
Grace
and protest
Sandragon.
on that bloody Sunday to help shake the nation's
Baker's
conscience.
dozen cats.
5
I wanted to hear
months
the border
later,
stuff for
the Voting
I'm
Rights
sorry.
Act passed and was signed into law.
My understanding was that he was
Thank
essentially
you.
saying pass the Republican,
Thank you,
the
thank you,
Republican
thank you.
written border security bill, which basically just it puts a limit on the number of immigrants that can come in based on nothing at all. It's just, nope, we got our 100, that's it. Nobody else is
But
getting in today.
59 years later,
Doesn't really help if you have a
our forces taking us back
backlog
in
of
time.
thousands.
Voter suppression, election subversion, unlimited dark money, extreme gerrymandering. John Lewis is a great friend to many of us here. But if you truly want to honor him and all the heroes who marched with him, then it's time to do more than talk. Pass the Freedom to Vote Act,
Boom.
the
This is
John
good.
Lewis Voting Right Act.
Who's not standing up? Show just this clip to Republicans. Look who doesn't want you to have the freedom to vote. Look who's terrified of democracy.
And stop.
Yeah.
Stop denying
Republicans
another core
need
value
peasants.
of America.
They don't need
Our
Americans.
diversity.
You're an American. You
across
don't
American
vote Republican.
life.
It's that simple.
Banning books. It's wrong. Instead of erasing history, let's make history. I want to protect fundamental rights. Pass the Equality Act. And my message to transgender Americans, I have your back. Pass the PRO Act for workers' rights.
It's all great except for the border.
Raise the federal
policy.
minimum wage. Because every worker has a
you're
right
already
to a
here,
decent living more than $7 an hour.
Joe Biden's a good president for you. If you're anywhere else, he's a nightmare.
We're also making history by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't think any of you think there's no longer a climate crisis. At least I hope you don't. I'm taking the most significant action ever on climate in the history of the world. I'm cutting our carbon emissions in half by 2030.
We didn't have a chorus.
Creating tens of thousands of clean energy jobs, like the IBEW work is building and installing 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Conserving 30% of America's lands and waters by 2030.
Isn't that just anything that is good for people, good for the world, Republicans are guaranteed to be against. I mean, that's all you need to know.
And pattern after the Peace
Villains,
Corps and America
all of
Corps, I
Don't
launched
vote
the
for these
Climate
parties.
Corps
If
to
you're
put
tempted
20,000 young
do
people
not
to work
understand.
in the forefront of our clean energy future. I'll
Look at
triple
that,
that number in a
20,000
decade.
jobs. Government jobs, Green New Deal. Good. Good, good, good.
To state the obvious, all Americans deserve the freedom to be safe. And America is safer today than when I took office. Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history. It was then,
I want to hear what they're saying.
through my American Rescue Plan, which every American voted against, I might add, we made the largest investment in public safety ever. Last year, the murder rate saw the sharpest decrease in history. Violent crime fell to one of its lowest levels in more than 50 years. But we have more to do. We have to help cities invest in more community police officers.
I would actually love that. I
more
can't
mental
believe
health
just
workers.
now I'm thinking
more
we should
community
have
violence
protesters there.
preventers.
I don't know any.
Give communities the tool to crack down on gun crime, retail crime, and carjacking. Keep building trust as they've been doing by taking executive action on police reform and calling for it to be the law of the land. Directing my cabinet to review the federal classification of marijuana and expunging thousands of convictions for the mere possession, because no one should be jailed for simply using or have it on their record.
Cripes. Yes. This is stuff I wish was passed in the 90s. But let's not pretend like it's bad that it's getting passed now.
I'm ramping up the federal enforcement of the Violence Against Women Act that I proudly wrote when I was a senator. So we can finally end the scourge against women in America.
Also known as Republicans.
There are other kinds of violence I want to stop.
Hey, Mike, what the F
With
is
us
he yelling?
tonight
I don't
is
know.
Jasmine, whose 9-year-old sister Jackie was murdered
Dragon, that was probably
with 21
a Gaza
classmates and teachers in an elementary school in Uvalde,
I don't know,
Texas. Very soon after that happened, Jill and I went to Uvalde for a couple of days.
Richard Hinckley.
We spent hours and hours
Dirty
with
hip
each of the
police,
families.
blurty, dirty D.
We heard their message, so everyone in this room, in this chamber, could hear the same message. The constant refrain, and I was there for hours meeting with every family. They said, do something. Do something. Well, I did do something by establishing the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the White House that the Vice President is leading the charge. Thank you for doing it. Meanwhile,
I don't think that was sufficient, but I would rather have a head nod to gun violence prevention.
Meanwhile,
but I truly
my predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president.
Yeah.
Oh. After another shooting in Iowa recently, he said, when asked what to do about it, he said, just get over it. There's his quote, just get over it.
This is good.
I say, stop
America
it.
needs to hear this.
Stop it, stop it, stop it. I'm proud we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years because of this Congress. We now must beat the NRA again. I'm demanding a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
Yes. Excellent.
Pass universal background checks.
Excellent.
None of this. I taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. None of this violates the Second Amendment or vilifies responsible gun owners.
True.
You know, as we manage challenges at home, we're also managing crises abroad, including in the Middle East. I know the last 5 months have been gut-wrenching for so many people, for the Israeli people, for the Palestinian people, and so many here in America.
Let's see.
This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know.
I'm sure I agree with that.
1,200 innocent people, women and girls, men and boys, slaughtered after enduring sexual violence.
Nope.
The deadliest day
That was
for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And 250 hostages taken.
The reports
here in this chamber tonight are families whose loved ones are still being held by Hamas. I pledge to all the families that we will not rest until we bring every one of your loved ones home. We also
look enough. The For Everything Evil Party is in agreement with you on this. What does that tell you, Joe Biden?
We will also work.
What does that tell you? What else did they stand up and applaud?
To bring home
not
Evan
a
and
damn
Paul,
thing
Americans
that was worth
being
anything.
unjustly detained by the Russians and others around the world.
Pathetic.
Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Hamas ended this conflict by releasing hostages, laying down arms, could end it by releasing the hostages, laying down arms, and surrendering those responsible for October 7th. But Israel has Israel has a added burden because Hamas hides and operates among the civilian population like cowards, under hospitals, daycare centers, and all the like. Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect
regardless of
innocent
whether they
civilians
think
in Gaza.
Hamas is there. They don't think Hamas is there. They just want to kill Palestinians. They've
This
made it
war-
abundantly clear. Look at that.
Has taken a
sympathy
greater
for a
toll
brown
on
person.
innocent civilians than all previous wars in Gaza combined. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed,
That's a number.
most of whom
Need to hear.
are not Hamas. Thousands and thousands of innocents, women and children, girls and boys, also orphaned. Nearly 2 million more Palestinians under bombardment or displacement. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods in rubble, cities in ruin. Families without food, water, medicine. It's heartbreaking. I've been working nonstop to establish an immediate ceasefire that would last
Bullshit.
for 6 weeks to get all
The
the
U.S.
prisoners
has blocked
released, all the
UN
hostages
calls for
released,
ceasefire.
to get
We've
the
been working
hostages
nonstop
home
to ensure the killing
and
continues.
ease the
Acknowledge
intolerable
that.
and humanitarian
I
crisis,
get it.
and build toward an enduring,
This is why he's
more
not
something more
trusted, and rightly
enduring.
so.
The United States has been leading international efforts
Excellent.
to get more humanitarian assistance to
Glad,
Gaza. Tonight, I'm
glad
directing the
those
U.S.
gals had a
military to lead an
realistic
emergency
plan.
mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day.
There you go. It's better than letting all
And
the kids
Israel
starve
must
to
do
death.
its part.
But the fundamental premise.
Israel must
I
allow
disagree.
more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire. And they're announcing they're
Bibi
going to
Netanyahu has got to go.
have
In
a
the same
crossing
vein
in
as
northern
the leaders
Gaza.
of Hamas have got to
The
go.
leadership
These are people
of
that trade in the
Israel, I
lives of
say
civilians.
this:
They are
humanitarian
neither
assistance
are our
cannot
allies.
be a secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority. As we look to the future, the only real solution to the situation is a two-state solution over time. And I say this as a lifelong supporter of Israel. My entire career, no one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here. I'm the only American president of Israel in wartime. But there is
I'd
no
kiss more
other path
Israeli ass than
that
anyone.
guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees Palestinians can live in peace with peace and dignity. And there's no other path that guarantees peace between Israel and all of its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, with whom I'm talking. Creating stability in the Middle East also means containing the threat posed by Iran. That's why I built a coalition of more than a dozen countries to defend international shipping and freedom of navigation in the Red Sea. I've ordered strikes to degrade the Houthi capability and defend U.S. forces in the region. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people and our military personnel.
So his stance: feed the starving children, do nothing to stop the direct killing. So the indirect killing, he's now going to take stronger steps to
I've
stand
heard many of
against.
my Republican and Democratic
Indirect
friends
killing will kill
say
more.
that China is on the rise.
So he's
and
slowing
America's
that
falling
bleed.
behind.
Will it stop at a mere
They got it
50,000? Will it
backwards.
stop at
I've been
70,000?
saying it for over 4 years, even when I wasn't president.
How many soccer stadiums full
America's
of people that
rising.
had nothing to do with
We have
this
the
are
best
going to
economy
die?
in the
Well, according to
world.
Joe Biden,
And since I've come to
less
office, our
than Donald
GDP is
Trump
up, our
would
trade
allow,
deficit with China is down
which
to
would
the lowest
be
point in over
whatever,
a
however
decade.
many soccer
And we're
stadiums
standing up against China's
can
unfair
fit the
economic
entire
practices.
population, all the Palestinian
We're
people.
standing up for peace and stability across
Too
the
many for
Taiwan
my liking.
Straits. I've revitalized our partnership and alliance
Remember
in the
that this is
Pacific.
who Democrats are.
India, Australia,
Crocodile tears
Japan,
at best, but
South
at least
Korea, Pacific Islands.
they're not dry-eyed.
I've made sure that the most advanced American technologies can't be used in China, not allowing to trade them there. Frankly, for all this tough talk on China, it never occurred to my predecessor to do any of that. I want competition with China, not conflict. And we're in a stronger position to win the conflict of the 21st century against China than anyone else, for that matter, than any time as well. Here at home, I've signed over 400 bipartisan bills. But there's more to pass my unity agenda. Strengthen penalties on fentanyl trafficking. You don't want to do that, huh? Pass bipartisan privacy legislation to protect our children online. Harness
Mars
the
Falcon
promise
bring
of AI to
point.
protect our
Ethno-states
ban
to maintain
AI
ethnic
voice
purity
impersonations and more.
cannot be democracies. It's just impossible. Those not pure enough will be second-class citizens at best.
Those we send into harm's way.
At best, that's true.
We care for them and their
Mars
families when they
Falcon
come
Johnson's
home
head almost
and when
fell
they
off.
don't.
Yeah. Public utility. Murder.
That's why
Yep.
the song Support and Help of Dennis and the VA, I signed the PACT Act. One of the most significant laws ever, helping millions of veterans exposed to toxins. who now
That was a
have
good
more than
act.
100
Veterans
different
exposed.
cancers.
It's okay.
Many of
And I
them
want to
don't
stick with
come
Israel
home.
because that's, I think,
owe them
where the
and their
progressives have the
families
biggest concerns, and
support.
rightly so.
We
We
owe
don't
it
want
to
to hear all
ourselves to
the
keep
sort of
supporting
good things he's
Our new
doing.
health research agency
We
called
want to hear
ARPA-H.
about how he's failing and how he will
Remind us.
cease to fail.
Remind us that we can do big things.
Shade
like
Dragon,
end
he was
cancer
almost
as
making
we know
headway,
it.
then he went into the
We
let's
will.
kill babies statements. Babies statements. This guy. Mars Falcon, in quotes, protect innocent civilians. Yeah, I think you guys...
Let me close with this.
Ooh,
Yay.
he's gonna laugh for the closing. Okay. I'll talk about this on the other side.
I know you don't want to hear any more, Lindsay, but I got to say a few more things.
though.
I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the
example.
contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future. My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality, to respect everyone, to give everyone a fair shot, to give hate no safe harbor. Now, other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution. That's not me.
Lindsey Graham
I
with
was
the
born
Slytherin
in
tie.
mid-World War II,
So on point.
when America stood for the freedom of the world.
Public utility, APAC
I grew up in
reaps
Scranton,
millions
Pennsylvania,
in
Claymont,
funding.
Delaware, among working-class people who built this country. I watched in horror as two of
Pitchforks.
my heroes, like many
Homebrew.
of you did, Dr. King and Bobby
I
Kennedy, were
appreciate
assassinated.
the coverage,
And their
even though I
legacies
was
inspired
driving the
me
whole
to
time, and it
pursue a career in service. I left the law firm, became a public defender because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard after Dr. King was assassinated because of the riots. And I became a county councilman almost by accident. I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running
Take
at
a note.
age
This is a
29.
path to power, folks.
Then vice
County
president,
councilman.
our first black president. Now president to
Senate.
the first women vice president.
Path to power. Like the guy, you can learn. You can do better. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. He said he got his first office almost by accident. Imagine if somebody with sense
In
tried
my
intentionally to
career,
get.
I've been told I was too young. By the way, they didn't let me on the Senate elevators for votes sometimes. Not a joke. And I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never
True.
walked away from
Glad
it
it's being
either.
acknowledged.
And I won't walk away from it now.
Good.
I'm optimistic. I really am. I'm optimistic, Nancy.
Good message to end on. According to the poll,
My fellow Americans,
we will watch the Republican response.
the issue facing our nation isn't how old we are. It's how old are our ideas. Hate, anger, revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas that only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away. I see a future where the middle class finally has a fair shot and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence. Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now.
As long
So
as you're
let's
not
build
Muslim.
the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Pretty good, in my humble opinion. Bearing in mind, we knew what Joe Biden was in 2020. Bearing in mind that I went to the effort of cutting campaign ads against Joe Biden in the 2020 primaries. When I was looking forward to the future, imagining what a 2024 speech from President Biden might look like. This is nearly as good as I could hope for, except for, the whole complicity? The whole being complicit in genocide thing. Well, let's see if we get some drama. Mr. President, I'm ancient and I have money. So you have to stop and shake my hand and pretend like I'm a big deal. Mr. President, I'm ancient and also have money. So you have to stop and shake my hand and pretend like I'm a big deal. Mr. President, I'm ancient. Mr. President,
Baptist preacher tonight. I'll tell you what. You are the Baptist preacher tonight. I'll tell you what, Jimmy.
So, before the Republican response as that loads up on C-SPAN, again, if you want to watch it without my jibber-jabber, the link is in the description. Or if you want to watch it with bingo involved, you've got Andrea and Matt streaming over on, I don't know which channel. Certainly Andrea Rowinski's channel, possibly on Matt's as well. Oh, my man Bernie, what could have been. Oh, to reverse those positions. But here's my response. On all domestic things, except for the border policy, it was exactly what I wanted to hear. The most interesting takeaway from this was the fact that he was appealing to the distant reaches of either side. The progressives who want people to live well, and the MAGA types who want to ensure that brown people suffer. I thought that was interesting, and I'm curious to see what happens when the new polls come in after the State of the Union. I'm curious to see when he sees that MAGA people hate him twice as much as they did yesterday for no reason. I'm curious to see how that affects his behavior. Probably it will disappoint me, but I'm ever hopeful that this fucking guy will wake up and realize that MAGA has nothing to offer anyone. That said, that was a bluff upon bluff upon bluff. It's a bluff because it might be a play he's willing to make at the border. He might be willing to continue Donald Trump's border policies that he has continued. But he knows MAGA is in such a tizzy right now that they're not gonna make it. So it's just words. Interesting. On the other hand, that talk about raising the highest marginal tax rate, that's actual fundamental change in the United States. The fundamental change in the United States will not arrive in the form of a handsome politician that thrills you every second of the way. It will arrive in the form of some rather boring tax bills, because what is fundamentally wrong with the United States presently is that we are an oligarchy. We are run by the ultra-rich. It's just a statement of the facts as they exist. Sorry, we are an oligarchy. A billionaire has tremendous ability to sway our elections, whereas regular folks have very little but not none. The fact that he is appealing to regular folks by saying he will take away some of the power of billionaires is fantastic. Oh, hey, by the way, Republicans for a long time now, Republicans for a very long time have had a rule where they will not add anything to the books without taking something else away. If there is a giant influx of money, say from taxing the ultra-rich, this may be our opportunity to break away from that, in my opinion, unlawful rule that we have all been following. It's nonsense. It's time to go. Here's an opportunity. Great. It will not surprise you to hear that I'm disappointed about his reaction to Israel. He was not forthright about the fact that he is complicit in the murder of those 30,000 civilians. He repeated a lie from Israel. There was a New York Times piece that came out talking about rapes that happened, I'm sorry to say the word, on October 7th. It was found to be false. It's not to say none happened, but the reporting was false. We are inundated with Israeli propaganda. Great way you can tell if something is propaganda is if you don't need more evidence to go after a group of people. In this case, Hamas, specifically Hamas. But they keep offering you reasons to see them as less than human. You know, to see them as Republicans, essentially. It's Israeli propaganda. Biden repeated it in front of the whole nation. That did damage, frankly. However, at the same time, don't discount the food aid. The food aid is huge. That will save more lives than a ceasing of all weapons shipments will. Doesn't mean we shouldn't stop all weapons shipments. This, in my opinion, is like if England was giving guns to MAGA while MAGA was killing U.S. atheists, which they would love to do given the slightest opportunity. It's no different than that. But let's not pretend like it's nothing because it's insufficient. We yes and this. Yes. Good. Yeah. Feed the kids that are starving to death. And stop arming their parents' murderers. I don't know if you saw the flower truck video, but a bunch of civilians swarmed a flower truck, desperate to get food, and they got mowed down by the IDF. The IDF then tried to blame it on Hamas. As with almost everything that Israel releases for a U.S. audience, that was a lie. Remember Rashida Tlaib? I busted her balls for jumping the gun on the rocket strike on a hospital. I busted her balls for that because she did jump the gun. She was too early. She said it was Israel, but we didn't know that yet. I think that's bad strategy. But don't forget, it was Israel. They've now destroyed, as far as I know, every hospital. Have they destroyed every hospital in that part of Gaza? I believe so. If not, they've been found to be targeting hospitals as a matter of strategy. And they targeted that hospital specifically. The information they put out about Hamas targeting it with a rocket attack was a lie. It makes it hard to convince Republicans who vote for Democrats. I'm saying this to a party that fucking desperately wants Republican votes and is disgusted by progressive votes. It makes it harder for Republicans who vote for Democrats when they see you picking and choosing the truths that you'll follow, because they know their own side does that. They know. They already know. They know their own side does that. So when they see you talking and their side talking, they look for who tells the lies they want to hear most. So if you tell just one lie, even if it's a lie you think they want to hear, Joe Biden, I assume you watch the stream, you'd be a fool not to. It's fantastic advice. Even if it's a lie they want to hear, then they're just going to go to the liar that tells the lies they want to hear more. The only chance you have of winning at least some of them over is if you tell nothing but truths, uncomfortable or not. Now, Joe Biden has demonstrated he's not the guy for the job. He's just not. Best case scenario, we keep this fucking co-murderer in power to stop somebody who would cut off the aid, cut off the food supply, who would say, we are not going to feed Hamas. We're pulling back all of those shipments because Democrats want to feed Hamas. No more airdrops. Let them starve. I say let them starve. And then you and I will go, oh my gosh, where are my pearls? Where are my pearls? I'll clutch them. As though we didn't know Trump would be worse. As though we were pretending like there was no such thing as worse than this. There is. It's Trump. At the same time, because we apparently failed to learn this lesson in the last 20-year war in the Middle East, now we have to try to learn it again. Give us someone who does not lie, even if they're callous, someone who does not lie. Give us someone who is willing to climb their way up instead of be carried to the presidency on a palanquin. Give us somebody with serious progressive ideals in their heart. I saw a few people in that crowd. Rashida Tlaib, I would love to have as my president. I like Gretchen Whitmer. I think she'd do great on domestic policy. I have no idea how she would act as a president. This is one of the many reasons why I tend to think that if you want to be president, I would rather see you as either a member of the House or, more realistically, a member of the Senate first. So, if you're picking your ponies locally, look who's running now. If they just lost in a primary campaign, now's a great time to contact them. Now's a great time to say, look, 28 is right around the corner, and a hell of a lot can happen between then and now. How do I stay in touch with you? Look at what Joe Biden was trying to do. He was laying out feelers for who he thinks his future constituents will be, or rather his party's future constituents will be. It shocks me that he doesn't know it yet. His future constituents are going to be the Republicans of 10 years ago, as all Democrat voters basically are. If you like Republican policy from 10 years ago, you're going to love the Democrats of today, no matter what era you're in, as long as it's post-1990. So, it is very likely that in the near future, we are going to be making it official that we no longer have to bite our tongues and vote for murderers. let's be cold. Let's shock them with how brutally calculated we can be. The greatest weakness of progressives has always been that we believe in the here and the now, and we make no plans for the future. It is always a Hail Mary and never a 15-yard pass. I'm terrible with sports terms. It is always a long shot and very rarely actual slow and steady progress. If we have the opportunity, great. But we always get conned into thinking we do. It literally never works. So here's what we do. Put people in power now, in the elections, now, that are going to vote for progressive things, regardless of who is in power at the end of the election. Constantly contact your representatives, even if they outwardly hate everything you write in about. Nonetheless, contact them and plan on telling them exactly what you want done. Because you never know when somebody might make a desperate appeal to a new audience. And finally, here is a type of protest I want to see us start doing. I want a group of 3 or 4 voters in a district. If you have a couple of friends who are willing to join you, do this. Find a proposal you want your legislator to vote for. Find out when they're going to be entering or exiting their office. Stand in front of their office. Have a cue card. Ask them simply, do you plan to vote for whatever is on the cue card? If you want them to vote for it, let me say this. If you want them to vote in a certain way and they respond in the other way, just turn your back and wait for them to leave. All of you at once. Only one of you speak. Only you with the cue card speak. But if they say they are not going to vote in the way that you want during this season where images are bad, turn your back on them. Literally. If they say they're going to vote in the way you want, shake their hand. If they lie to you, bigger protest, lots of backs turned. Maybe that whistle blowing, the over and over. But that's a kind of protest you can do now. That's a kind of pressure campaign you can mount on your representatives now. Somebody in the comments, come up with a name for that kind of protest. Again, one person reading a cue card. And if they are, it's just you asking, are you going to vote for SB yada, yada, yada? Are you going to vote against whatever name will resonate with people? SB yada, yada, the Free Our Children Act, or whatever thing that it's colloquially called. That's simple. And if they don't answer you, everybody turns their back. Everybody's watching you there. It's 3 or 4 of your friends. Their only job is to stand there with you, tell you jokes, keep you company, and wait for you to either turn your back on them or shake their hand. If they disagree with you, if they say, I'm not going to vote for that, turn your back on them. If they say, if I'm going to do as you ask, shake their hand. And that's that. It's one photo op. It's all you're there for. You might spend hours standing there, but you will change the world. Let's have a look. I don't like all the backslapping I'm seeing. Wireless mic. So we're not watching the response. We are.
No, you're good. Admiral Faye. I got you. I know you are, ma'am.
Yeah, it's going to be on C-SPAN. Baker's Dozen Cast, the Republican response, is going to be on C-SPAN as well. That's my understanding. All right, y'all, well, I'm looking around the internet to see if it's up there. You guys tell me what we should name this protest. I'll do a little animation. It'll be cutesy daisy, but it will get the point across. Republican response. Yep. I'm not seeing the Republicans talking yet. C-SPAN says they are going to, according to the video title on C-SPAN, it is the State of the Union and Republican response. And I'm looking at the other videos which are carrying this, and it's all news people talking right now. That's a pretty common thing. That's basically the point of the anchors, is to carry over the, offer some insight into what just happened and delay, well, some Republican whose career will end tonight gets ready to say something in a bizarre fashion that will get ridiculed tomorrow and here. So I'm going to keep this up as soon as I see, let's be honest, some son of Yakub, I'll knock it over. Oh, God, Aaron W., probably Huckabee Sanders again. Probably. The letter hack, subterranean political protest. No! Andrea Ravinsky, breaking news. Akira Toriyama is dead. Creator of Dragon Ball as well as Dragon Quest. He did the art for that. Basically, half the pictures of my childhood, just like letter hack, is half the pictures of my adulthood. That's a bummer. But let me give an in memoriam for Akira Toriyama. The best one can hope for in life is to create something that lasts longer than you do. And Akira Toriyama not only did that multiple times, but one of his first major ventures, Dragon Ball, lasted so long that it got renewed late in life for him. And he saw a resurgence of it happen. Akira Toriyama was a fantastic animator. I think the term is a mangaka. I'm a Western gent, but I'll say this: he was a fantastic artist. He had a sense of fun, and he will be deeply and sorely missed. Sorry to hear that, Gay. Ooh, Pinkerbell. Pinkerbell, I think, has it. Polite pressure. I'm pinning that. Current top suggestion, which I think is probably going to be the best suggestion. Polite pressure. I like that. All you're trying to do is demonstrate visually and in a snappy manner that, number one, you don't give a about whatever soft shoeing they're going to do. When they try to tell you, no, I'm going to vote to enslave children, but I'm going to make it seem like it's a workers' rights thing, you just turn your back. I don't need to hear your jibber jabber. You're here to do a job. I'm voting in a couple months. Doesn't look good if my back is to you. This is the best time to do that. This is when they will be terrified of things that are visually scary. F, I'm going to blow my nose. In part because of Toriyama. Damn.
Is that right?
He is 90 could be 91.
Can I get his phone number?
I will do that too.
Promise?
I promise you, right? Yeah, by more. Mr. President, thank you very much.
Most people can't leave until we leave, and we need to go this way.
Well, the Democrats are...
You see, it's stuff like that. Like, I'm not dunking on Joe Biden here specifically. This is all presidents, but he's just... It's the lack of awareness of things like that. Like, he thinks he is glad-handing, and these people are probably thrilled that they're getting a handshake from Joe Biden, but he doesn't understand the raw practicalities of, like, these people are not allowed to go home to their hot plates or whatever. I'm sorry, they don't live like us. They're not allowed to go home to their mansions. And their cat food and beer. Until we go. And so now he starts to meander out. Oh, we got one for, looks like maybe AOC. I think that's AOC. Oh, boy. Mars Falcon on MSNBC. Mars Falcon, under Biden, our country is less secure, our communities less safe, and we're all going to be murdered in our sleep. Katie Britt going for the breathy voice to show she cares. She oozes bullshit. For a second, I had her confused with Katie Tour, and that would have been deeply disappointing. This is on MSNBC? What the fuck is she talking about? Oh, she's delivering, well, hell. Are they already doing it? Pulling it up, gang. Pulling it up. Damn, they're not live streaming it. All right, let's pull it up there. God help us. We're pulling from Fox. All right, here's part of the Republican response. Was ist das? Oh, because I haven't. All right.
Biden's border policies are a disgrace. This crisis is despicable. And the truth is, it is almost entirely preventable.
Oh my God. Whoa.
From fentanyl poisonings to horrific murders. There are empty chairs tonight at kitchen tables just like this one because of President Biden's senseless border policies. Just think about Laken Riley. In my neighboring state of Georgia, this beautiful 22-year-old nursing student went out on a jog one morning, but she never got the opportunity to return home. She was brutally murdered by one of the millions of illegal border crossers President Biden chose to release into our homeland. Y'all, as a mom,
again,
I can't quit thinking about this. I mean, this could have been my daughter.
Policy is identical.
This could have been yours.
Not a single change.
And tonight, President
That's
Biden
what they're focusing on.
Finally said her name. But he refused to take responsibility for his own actions. Mr. President, enough is enough. Innocent Americans are dying, and you only have yourself to blame. Fulfill your oath of office, reverse your policies, end this crisis, and stop the suffering. Sadly, we know that President Biden's failures don't stop there. His reckless spending dug our economy into a hole and sent the cost of living through the roof. We have the worst inflation in 40 years and the highest credit card debt in our nation's history. Let that sink in. Hardworking families are struggling to make ends meet today.
The very
and
kind
with soaring
$5 super
mortgage
chat.
rates
Senator Katie
and
Britt, if clutching
sky-high
pearls
child
was a
care
voice.
cost. They're also struggling to how to plan for tomorrow. The American people are scraping by while President Biden proudly proclaims that Bidenomics is working. Goodness, y'all, bless his heart. We know better. I'll never forget stopping at a gas station in Chilton County one evening. The gentleman working the counter told me that after retiring, he had to pick up a job in his 70s so that he didn't have to choose between going hungry or going without his medication. He said, I did everything right. I did everything I was told to do. I worked hard, I saved, I was responsible. He's not alone. I hear similar concerns from fellow parents. whether I am
Republicans don't
walking
like
with my
crime.
friends or whether I'm at my kids'
I
games.
mean, the proper pigs
But
in the Republican
let's be
Party
honest.
can't stand.
It's been a minute since
earnest
Joe
emotion,
Biden pumped
much
gas,
less fake emotion.
ran a carpool, or even pushed a grocery cart.
The kitchen she's saying
Meanwhile,
that from.
the rest of us see our dollar and we know it doesn't go as far.
He's also
we see it every
seesawing
day.
between big emotions too fast.
And despite what he
Seems
tells
like a,
you,
my level actor
our
reading the
communities
script,
are
you know.
not
Good for
safer.
GM, not good for Hollywood.
For years, the left has coddled criminals and defunded the police, all while letting repeat offenders
Katie
walk
Britt.
free.
Go.
The result is tragic, but foreseeable. From our small towns to America's most iconic city streets, life is getting more and more dangerous. And unfortunately,
where
President
They
Biden's
have the
weakness
strongest case.
isn't just
Not
hurting
because of
families here
policy,
at home.
but because it's more
He is
difficult
making
to
us a
explain why
punchline on the
Republicans are
world
in fact the
stage.
cause of this. It's a
Look,
complicated
where I'm
answer.
from, your word is your bond. But for 3 years, the president has
Guess the short
demonstrated
version
that
is recidivism.
America's word
They increase it,
doesn't
Democrats
mean
decrease it.
what it used to. From abandoning our allies in his disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan to desperately pushing another
not gonna
dangerous deal with Iran. President Biden has failed.
Got ahead of the teleprompter there.
We've become a nation in retreat. And the enemies of freedom, they see
Do you
an
think your teleprompter
opportunity.
has emojis on it?
Putin's brutal aggression in Europe has put
watch the
our
eye.
allies on the
Let's go.
brink. Iran's terrorist proxies have slaughtered Israeli, Jews, and American citizens. They've targeted commercial shipping, and they've attacked our troops nearly 200 times since October, killing 3 U.S. soldiers and 2 Navy SEALs. Meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party is undercutting America's workers. China is buying up our farmland, spying on our military installations, and spreading propaganda through the likes of TikTok. You see, the CCP knows that
Wireless
if
mic.
it
The right believes
conquers
swamp
the
people
minds
and
of
duck
our
dynasty
next
and
generation,
pro wrestling are real.
it
They'll fall for this
conquers
hook, line, and sinker.
America.
As far as I know, only one pro wrestling is
And what
actually
does
real.
President
and that's
Biden
Wicked Fight Night.
do? Well, he bans
Maybe they will. We'll
TikTok
see.
for government employees, but creates an account
I think
for his
the
own
going
campaign.
up and then going
Y'all,
down, and then
you
going up
can't
and
make
then
this
going
stuff
down
up.
is going to be the focus, though. 'Cause
Look,
it's just weird, and
we
weird is
all
more notable.
recall when presidents faced national security threats with strength and resolve. That
Not under
seems
Trump.
like
Gotta throw that back.
ancient history. Right now, our commander-in-chief is not in command. The free world deserves better than a dithering and diminished leader.
Boom.
America deserves leaders who
Turning on
recognize
Trump. Oh, wait, she
that
meant Biden.
secure borders, stable prices, safe streets, and a strong defense are actually the cornerstones of a great nation.
Hear that? The great.
Just ask
nation.
yourself, are you better off now than you were 3 years ago? There's no doubt we're at a crossroads, and it doesn't have to be this way. We all feel it. But here's the good news. We, the people, are still in the driver's seat. We get to decide whether our future will grow brighter or
And if
whether
we're
we'll
going to
settle
take away
for
our
an
ability
America
to be
in
in the
decline.
driver's seat.
Well, I know which choice our children deserve. And I know the choice the
like those
Republican Party is fighting for. We are the party of hard-working parents and families.
Bullshit.
And we
They're
want
the
to
party
give
of
you
landlords.
and your children the opportunities to thrive. And
If they survive the
we
school
want
shooting.
families to grow It's why we strongly support continued nationwide
Pitchforks
access
Dragon
to in
with
vitro
another very
fertilization.
kind $5 super
We
chat.
want to
Thank
help
you.
loving moms and
Anyone
dads
else getting bad
bring
monologue in the
precious
drama
life
club
into
play
this world.
vibes from this response?
Wesley and I believe there
Yes.
is no greater blessing in life than our
Exactly.
children. And that's why tonight I want to make a direct appeal to the parents out there, and in particular to my fellow moms, many of whom I know will be up tossing and turning at 2 a.m., wondering how you're going to be in 3 places at once and then somehow still get
You got to
dinner
go to
on the
school,
table.
then you got to go to the hospital to pick up
First of
your kid
all,
who went to school and got
we
shot. Then you got to
see
go to the
you.
morgue to bury the other one that
We
got shot. You got to
hear
be
you.
everywhere.
And we stand with you.
We'll make
I
sure
know
that
you're frustrated.
your burials are cheap.
I know you're probably disgusted
mass
by
grave
most
for
of
your
what you
kids.
see going on in Washington, and I'll be really honest with you. You're not wrong for feeling that way. Look, I get it.
I'm doing
the
my
task
best
in
to
front of us
you
isn't
all.
an easy one, but I can promise you one thing. It is worth it. So I am asking you, for the sake of your kids and your grandkids,
Listen
get
to what
into
the call
the
to action
arena.
is.
Every generation has been called to do hard things.
Listen to the
American
actual
greatness
things they want their
rests
voters to
in the
do.
fact that we always answer that call.
We outnumber
It's
them
who
in the
we are.
polls in terms of votes,
Never forget,
not in terms of names
we
on the
are
ballot.
steeped
That's a
in the
damn shame.
blood of
And that is our
patriots
fault.
who overthrew the most powerful
Listen to the call to
empire
action.
in
The call to
world.
action.
We walk in the
Hey,
footsteps
people that believe
of
this,
pioneers
run.
who tamed the wild. We now
Okay,
carry
people that
forward
believe
the
in
same
facts,
flame of freedom
run for
as
office.
the liberators of an oppressed Europe. We continue to draw courage from those who bent the moral arc of the universe.
Liberators of an oppressed Europe.
And
Got
when
me.
we gaze upon the heavens, never forget that our DNA contains the same ingenuity that put man on the moon. America has
I'll
been
take that,
tested
sure.
before, and every single time we've emerged unbowed and unbroken. Our history has been written with the grit of men
I
and
think she's
women
gonna get
who got
torn to
knocked
shreds.
down.
I'm interested to see if Matt.
But we know their stories.
Most of you are right.
Because
Seems
they
most of you
did not stay
think This is
down.
going to be very effective.
We are here.
Obviously, lefties will,
because
but I'm
they
curious to see
stood back
how the wackadoos react.
So now it's our turn, our moment to stand up and prove ourselves worthy of protecting the American dream. Together, we can reawaken the heroic spirit of a great nation. Because America, we don't just have a rendezvous with destiny. We take destiny's hand and we lead it. Our future starts around kitchen tables just like this, with moms and dads just like you. And you are why I believe with every fiber of my being that despite the current state of our union, our best days are still ahead. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless these United States of America.
Oofa doofa. Let's see how long that holds. Oh my God, that's so painful.
All right, there you were listening to Alabama.
Oh, what have I done? Oh, what have I done? There we go. All right. Thank you for holding that antenna up the entire time, Pixel Jake. My response to the Republican response. I think that was a tone designed to sway centrists. I think that was the sort of thing that pulls at the heartstrings of centrists. I think that was a good tactical choice on their part, and I think they went way, way too hard. They know their biggest weakness. The Republicans know their biggest weakness are female voters. Ladies just let me try this again. People who can reproduce just had their fundamental rights taken away for the first time ever in the United States because of the past Republican president who they're now trying to put in office. I found it very interesting that she didn't end with a big "Go Donald Trump" cry there, although obviously that's where that's headed. But in that message, what they were trying to do was appeal to centrists. Equally interesting, because I think Joe Biden believes that he has centrists locked up, there was an appeal to the fringes of both parties. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. The reason I don't think that was an effective response is because, exactly as Pitchfork's Dragon stated it, the middle school play level acting. No sweat to middle school plays, but there's a reason they're not broadcast nationally, generally, because the acting tends not to be that convincing. The very high and then very low and then very laughy and then very breathy. It seemed performative. And when somebody detects a note of fakeness, especially the kind of folks that don't frequently voice their political opinion despite having it, they tend to just stop listening. Also worthy of note, the very core issue that I zeroed in on there was immigration. That's where they seem to want to be focusing. That really has become the Republican electoral strategy. Pretend like there's a horde of scary Browns at the border. That's their whole strategy. Joe Biden is aware of that. He did something I disagree with morally. I don't think a moral leader should have done this, but it is nonetheless good politics. To counteract that, he said, okay, I will go with the Republican border bill. And then Republicans didn't pass it. Now, they've tried to find all the reasons under the sun to explain why that is. But if somebody can be swayed, if for anybody for who that little speech was necessary, if they can't be swayed, then that speech doesn't even matter. So for anybody to whom that speech was necessary, I don't think they will have been swayed by that speech. This, of course, means that requires them to be aware of the fact that it is the exact same border bill. I think Joe Biden did a decent job of making that clear, as well as he can, without further pissing off progressives by just admitting what it is. It's the Republican border bill that he wanted to pass. All around, I think we are looking at a political party which has basically no future. The Republicans. I think if they win the House and Senate and the White House in 24, yeah, they'll destroy America and then no future. But also, they simply don't have the ability to genuinely run a country. They're at a point where the more they win, the more visible they get. And that's a problem for them. They were most visible, Republicans were, under Trump because he was staunchly and blatantly anti-democratic. You could not pawn off half of the tragedies on Democrats by saying, well, it was a bipartisan bill and there were some parts of that. He tried, but he made such a stink of it that it was obvious to the casual observer, who is the average voter, what was going on. Also, they've yet to contend with this.
The witness just admitted that we won the trial, and the judge should end this trial immediately. Thank you.
This is as long as they can get away with ignoring the fact that the charges against Trump are very real. Even if they think, oh, well, oh, I don't believe it. Oh, gosh. I think it's all a deep state conspiracy to... Doesn't change the fact that their funding is getting soaked up by Trump legal fees. Doesn't change the fact that Trump's time is spent in court more and more and more every single day. Doesn't change the fact that Trump's brain is fucking melting. We'll talk about that likely on the next show. He's not doing well. He is as bad or worse than Biden. And for a party that constantly draws attention to that, I'm just shocked. I'm just shocked that they keep drawing attention to such things, saying that such things are important. All in all, between the lack of advertisements they're going to be able to run and the lack of enthusiasm they're going to be able to drum up, I just don't see them having the kind of turnout for Trump in 24, who is now a proven loser, who has who they thought won in 2020 and yet couldn't get into office. I just don't see people getting off their butts and voting for him en masse. And so, here's what I think we should do. Act like they're going to anyway. It's everything or nothing. Doesn't matter if Joe Biden sucks. Joe Biden does suck. Doesn't matter. It's as spelled out as it can be that Trump sucks worse. If you don't want to be in this position in 4 years, there's work to be done now. Until then, that's the long-term plan. We either take over or break away from the Democrats. The time has just about come. I think this is fair to say the last election where progressives have to vote for the Democrat. Unless we have a robust primary where the progressive, frankly, wipes the floor with everybody else. I see 28 as going vastly differently. Doesn't change that the next step is November. And we should, even if Republicans appear to be not quite what they were, if crazier, less effective, doesn't change the fact that we have to treat them like they are every bit the threat that they could potentially be. That is what we got to put our dukes up and guard against. Because these motherfuckers are out to end democracy. No ifs, ands, or buttocks against it. That's their game plan. They have it written down in the form of something called Project 2025. That is the plan. Never again can they be in power. We need to ensure that is priority number one. Let's see what the Wicked community has to say. Morbius Dragon, gifted a What You Can Do membership. Thank you so much. Donald James X, well, that's fantastic of you, man. Donald James X, if Trump gets reelected, he will be resurrected, and will actually evolve into God. Yeah, that's their general belief. Wireless Mike, I gotta run, you guys. Have a great night, everybody. Get well soon. What you can do. See you all around the chats. Good night, my friend. Journey Metatron, it's always gonna be that way. If you're talking about the need to vote for a Democrat simply because they are a Democrat, I don't believe so. I'll go into detail in a minute, but I think that progressives now have the infrastructure in place to to do the most valuable thing. It's the last thing I'll talk about for the night because you bring up a good point. Even if I misunderstood your point, it's one I want to talk about. I think progressives have in place the ability to keep people interested in one person for 4 years. I think if we use that to keep people interested in 4 to 5 people, 6 or 7 people as potential presidential candidates for the entirety of 28, if we have Biden constantly being compared to the progressive champion of the day, I think that puts an expectation that they'll run for president in the 28 ballot. I think that's, generally speaking, the game plan. I think what we should be doing is interviewing those folks on shows like this, asking them to lead protests, specifically starting a protest and then asking them to lead it. Say, you said you believe in X. I'm doing a protest about that. I want you to be there. I'd like you to lead it. I'd like you to be a movement leader. In other words, forcibly plant the seeds of the grassroots campaign. Make a couple of our best, and look around your local districts. Look around you. A couple of our best as the high watermark Biden will be constantly measured against. Also, that gives us a secondary benefit. There is a tendency in the United States to vote for one party, then the other party, then one party, then the other party. Because the baggage of the old is frequently carried over. Nobody wants the last administration to get a blank check. If Biden is seen as different than what the progressive would have done, that changes the primaries fundamentally. I want to see as much interest in the progressive candidates as there are in the Republican psychopaths. I think that's very doable. I think in the process of doing that, we can also influence people who are currently in office. And I would love, love, love our next president to be a senator right now. But I'll take anybody with a couple of cents in their head who is not inundated with debt to giant corporations. Y'all, thank you for joining me. I gotta read the comment. Journey Metatron. I want to believe that this is possible. Not going to stop fighting for progressive causes, even if I don't have much hope these days. Tell you what, let's do some test cases. Let's see if we can pressure some local politicians to do something interesting. We'll keep it going on the next show. In the meantime, this has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. And this is Donald James X.